Today we're talking about VO2max and what it is. Okay, so VO2max is milliliters per kilogram per minute. So that's a measurement of milliliters of oxygen utilised per kilogram of body weight per minute. The body uses oxygen to process the glycogen stores in the muscles to generate power, and the faster you run, the more oxygen you need for that process. And of course there is a max limit for that. The great thing about VO2max is that you can increase your VO2max level with aerobic training or improving performance for endurance runners. It's also important for sprinters, not to say they wouldn't have a high VO2max anyway. Cyclists tend to have a higher VO2max than runners. VO2max is also a measurement of the efficiency of the human body's aerobic system. So how do we get a high VO2max reading? First we've got to decide how we're going to measure it. There's two main ways that you can do it, or that I know of. First is to get a lab test done. And by googling that, I can see that's going to cost you about £80. The alternative is the lab test is obviously going to be the most accurate one. They've got trained personnel, they've got treadmills, computers, a lot of breathing apparatus, everything you need to do the test. But it's costly, and you only get that one result for that one day, and if it changes in 2 weeks, you don't know about it. However, if you take a running watch that's got a VO2max feature, it can cost anywhere from £80 upwards into the hundreds. You could probably be pushing close to 1,000 if you get the fanciest watch, but that's not essential for just a VO2 test. And then if you buy your watch for £80, £100, £200, you can do a VO2max test on every run if you want, and it's not going to be far off the accuracy of a lab test, but it's not going to be that great. So a watch with a VO2max capability should be good enough for most people. There's obviously going to be variations between the different brands. However, I would say it doesn't really matter as long as you get your watch and you just use that one through training. So if you do your first test on it, it comes out as 40. The next day you get 41. And the week after that you get 42. You know you're improving. So it doesn't really matter what it is, but if you switch to another watch you might get a different reading. You might say you're at 41 and the other one says you're at 42. So now we'll consider an activity tracker and a running watch that has a device to obtain a high VO2max result. These are the two that I've used. I actually use both at the moment. The Vivosmart 3 and the Garmin 645. The Vivosmart 3 cost about £45. I think it cost more than that, probably close to £80 or £100 when it first came out, but I did buy that when it was a little bit older. But the caveat with that is it requires a GPS connection to your phone. The VO test you have to start manually, so you've got to remember you want to do it. And it requires you to run flat out for about 1 kilometre. The Garmin 645 cost about £300. But it's built in GPS. It will do the VO2max test every run, so you don't need to tell it you want to do that. It just automatically does it when you put it into record your run mode. If you do a series of slow aerobic runs, you'll find that you end up getting a low VO2max result, which is not really what you're after, but the test can't be turned off. Okay, so I've probably got my best results from the 645 when running on the track. Basically running out flat out and holding the maximum pace for as long as possible. I think on that day it was probably about 40-45 minutes I was running at. So both watches require you to run out flat out for a period of time. It's pretty much fixed on the Vivo 3, but on the 645 it isn't. But each has a slightly different way of estimating your VO2 max. So how can we improve our VO2 max? Capillary development by aerobic training. It may not be the only way, but it's the way that I've done it, and at the moment it's the only way that I know how. So we take a look at this. From the anatomy of the human body, we've got capillaries that are on the lungs and capillaries are on the muscles, and basically the capillaries there absorb the oxygen from your lungs, transport it into veins, arteries, and get to the muscles, and that's where the VO2 is used to process the glycogen in your muscles to generate the power. And obviously any waste and CO2 that's a byproduct of the process is absorbed back into the capillaries through the veins and arteries back to the lungs and exhaled out of the body. Your lung capacity is pretty much fixed in adults, as is your networks and your arteries. However, the capillaries are not, and they can be developed through aerobic training, and the actual capillaries, the efficiency of them and the number of them increase. So recalling the earlier formula, O2 consumption or reducing weight is the only way to improve VO2 max. Capillary is an essential part of the muscles, so drastic weight loss, breaking down muscle tissue, will likely reduce the capillaries as well. So one way of doing it is slow weight loss, maintaining your muscle mass. But since us runners run, it's probably better to run at a steady aerobic level for longer periods, and as a byproduct of that you'll probably get some weight loss anyway. Aerobic training takes time, but I found it being the best way to increase my endurance on the long runs, particularly in half run and marathon distances. So that was a short insight into VO2 max. In my next vlog I'm going to talk about the detail of how I actually improved my aerobic development, increased the capillaries, the gains that I got from running in a marathon, in a half marathon, and basically getting the time down. So if you're interested in that, that will eventually be linked at the end of this vlog, but it's going to take a few days to edit that. However, if you're not watching this video in the first few days, it's probably already linked, available at the end anyway. So please have a look at that if you can, or think about possibly subscribing to get notification when it comes available. I very much appreciate that, thank you.